Chosen one, this message didn't arrive by chance. It was time to reach you in this exact moment. Something invisible has aligned to bring you here. What if I told you that the ache in your body has been speaking a language far more ancient than any doctor's chart? You have felt that persistent tension in your shoulders, the inexplicable tightness in your chest, and the collapse of energy that seems to come out of nowhere. They told you it was anxiety, stress, or poor diet, but deep down you sensed something else. A profound shift occurring beneath the surface. In that quiet knowing, you realized your body had become a battleground for forces you could not yet name. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay with me, because the truth you have been longing for is about to surface. When spirit becomes somatic, a whisper of dawn traces across your mind as you awaken from a dream where your own bones seem to hum with hidden life. In that fleeting moment between sleep and wakefulness, you saw yourself as a conduit for something vast, an unseen river of energy surging through every fiber of your being. That vision lingers like a melody, stirring the realization that your body has never been mere flesh and bone, but a sacred vessel carrying frequencies far beyond ordinary perception. As you shake off the last tendrils of sleep, you sense a gentle confirmation in the quiet stirring of your limbs. The aches and tensions you've long dismissed as random are, in fact, signposts pointing to a narrative far greater than your conscious mind has yet grasped. There were countless days when you felt disconnected, standing on the outskirts of your own life as though watching from behind glass. You recall sitting in meetings, your chest tightening for no clear reason, while everyone around you seemed unaffected by tensions that rattled your core. Sometimes in social settings, a wave of loneliness washed over you even when you were surrounded by laughter, an inexplicable isolation that whispered you were somehow too much or not enough. In those moments, your sensitivity felt like a curse rather than a gift, and you swallowed your questions rather than risk unbelief. You longed for meaning, wondering if everyone else possessed a manual for life that you could never find. As you tucked away your tears and tried to pretend that your hidden world of aches and intuitions was unimportant. But what if those emotions and patterns were never accidental? Imagine that an unseen architecture has always underpinned your path, a careful design meant to shape you for something beyond ordinary destiny. In Psalm 139 verse 13, it is declared, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb," suggesting that every aspect of your being was crafted knowingly. Your sensitivities, your restless heart, the way your body protested when you tried to ignore inner stirrings, all of these were woven into your design. Like Jeremiah, who was called and set apart before birth, Jeremiah 1 verse 5, you too were marked by divine intent. The confusion you experienced, the seasons of mistrust in your own strength, are now revealed as essential chapters in a story authored by a power that sees far beyond the surface of pain and isolation. In the days and weeks since you first sensed that there was more to your aches, subtle signs have begun to bloom like flowers opening at dawn. Remember the moment you felt a sharp pulse in your temples, as if a new rhythm sought to calibrate your mind, or when dreams emerged bearing symbols impossible to decode, leaving you with a quiet certainty that they held messages far richer than mere imagination. Perhaps you noticed how a single phrase in a conversation earlier that day replayed inside you like a code waiting to be cracked, or how a sudden, inexplicable warmth settled in your chest while you prayed for clarity. In these small, often unnoticed shifts, you began to glimpse the choreography of a spiritual dance that uses your body as both stage and instrument. Each pulse and tremor, each flash of insight, was a clue, a way for the spirit to announce its presence to a body ready to bear witness. The fragile walls of doubt begin to crumble when you recall the many times your intuition proved undeniably correct. You did not imagine that feeling, the hairs rising on your arms the instant danger lurked in a conversation. You did not fabricate the moment you sensed a flicker of divine instruction guiding your steps through a crowd. In Exodus 14 verse 14, we read, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." And as you reflect, you recognize that your quiet moments of stillness, when you listen to the tremor beneath every ache, were your first acts of faith. When those aches shifted from random discomfort to purposeful signals, you felt an inner alignment that brought an unexpected peace. The knowledge that your body's protest was not the enemy, but the herald of a deeper wisdom awakening within you. As awareness blooms, you begin to understand that remembering who you truly are involves recovering what was buried beneath layers of conditioning and pain. There has always been an archetypal memory nested in your bones, an echo of a time before fear, before doubt, before the world taught you to hide your sensitivity. In Ezekiel 37 verses 1 to 3, the prophet is led to a valley of dry bones, and God asks, "Can these bones live?" Similarly, your body has felt bone dry, as though the spark of purpose had flickered out. Yet as you reclaim that buried memory, you feel a distant hum awakening in your marrow, a living connection to a heritage of chosen ones who carried light through darkness. This rediscovery is not about becoming someone new, but about stripping away the debris that obscures the vibrant presence that has always dwelled within you. A delicate ember of empowerment stirs as you embrace your sensitivity not as a liability, but as a divine gift. You remember the nights when tears streamed down your face as you sensed the world's pain, certain you were too fragile to stand. Yet now, you realize that same tender heart was a wellspring of compassion, a conduit for healing and revelation. When others spoke in loud, forceful voices, you heard the unspoken truth resonating beneath their words. Where they saw weakness, your insight discovered paths of restoration. You begin to feel a slow but purposeful shift. This hunger for spiritual depth, once a source of isolation, now becomes the foundation of your strength. Each breath you take carries the promise that your heightened sensitivity is the clarion call of a higher realm, beckoning you to stand deliberately in your power. And so, as you arrive at this crossroads, this moment of conscious choice, know that your presence here is no accident. Every heartbeat that pounded with fear, every silent tear that fell in hidden solitude, has conspired to lead you to this truth. Your life has always been aligned with a deeper purpose. Let this realization settle into your bones as a gentle yet powerful affirmation. You were never lost, only waiting to come home to the truth that has always guided you. Comment awaken if this message resonates with the echo in your spirit, and carry this affirmation forward as you step boldly into the unfolding of your divine mission. Thank you to all current members who hold space as witnesses to these sacred transitions. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. Divine upgrades require temporary discomfort. A faint tremor of fatigue settled in your bones long before you named it as spiritual warfare. It began as a whisper of discomfort, a quiet heaviness in your shoulders, a dull ache behind your eyes that refused to lift with sleep alone. You sensed a pattern. The moment you leaned into higher truths, a sudden wave of exhaustion washed over you as though your very cells revolted. In those early days, you believed it was mere stress or burnout. Yet each time you pushed yourself to grasp a revelation, your body balked, as if refusing to carry the weight of sacred transmission. It was in that first moment of confusion, lifting a simple mug of coffee felt like shouldering a boulder, that you realized something unseen was at work. They watched you struggle and expected you to crumble under the weight of every ache, never suspecting that each pang was a prophetic signal, announcing that your human frame was being transformed by forces beyond mortal design. A deeper ache accompanied that physical strain, one that tangled itself around your heart. Isolation seeped in when friends dismissed your exhaustion as drama, or when family labeled your sensitivity to truth as weakness. You remember the sting of being told you were too fragile to bear heavy news, too out there to fit into mundane conversations. Shame mingled with self-doubt. Was I simply broken? They asked. Or was there something spiritual in motion? Inevitably, late nights were spent replaying every interaction, wondering if you were too much or not enough. You felt like an outsider in the most intimate spaces, your own body betraying you when you needed it most. Each cycle of rejection and internal questioning cut deeper than any physical symptom, teaching you that this journey demanded a commitment far beyond mere resilience. The emotional pressure built until you could no longer ignore the fact that your pain was telling you something important, even if you did not yet understand what. As the pattern deepened, you began to see that these waves of spiritual discomfort were not random. but part of an unseen structure operating just beyond the veil. In Exodus, the Israelites endured 40 years in the wilderness, their bodies surviving on manna while their spirits learned to trust in unseen provision. Exodus 16. In your own wilderness, every bout of exhaustion, every ache in your limbs, was a reminder that you were being uprooted from comfortable illusions and prepared for a destiny that required a vessel refined by trial. Friends, colleagues, and institutions unconsciously reacted to your emerging potential, seeking to contain you within boxes and labels that no longer fit. Systems built on compromise pressed against your integrity, and invisible forces aligned to test your resolve at every turn. Just as Daniel refused to defile himself in Babylon, choosing solitude and prayer over compromise. Daniel 1 verse 8. You too found yourself at odds with expectations, each conflict revealing that something greater pulsed within you, demanding space to grow, even if that meant walking through fires of discomfort. When you step back and look at the mosaic of your life, clearest patterns begin to emerge, strange obstacles that appeared whenever you tried to step into your calling, betrayals that recurred at moments of breakthrough, and environments so draining they threatened to crush your spirit. You recall how every time you approached a milestone, launching a creative project, voicing a truth, you were met with sudden roadblocks. A partner backing out, a key document lost, an opportunity evaporating without explanation. At family gatherings, supportive words turned to thinly veiled criticism the moment you spoke of visions beyond ordinary reality. Each scenario felt like a maze designed to ensnare you, yet in hindsight these repeated betrayals served as markers, guiding you away from false paths and toward the terrain where your spirit could thrive. It was unsettling to see the same sabotage patterns replay in different seasons. Yet this clarity, like a light switching on in a dark room, revealed that your journey was not about avoiding pain, but about learning to navigate it with unwavering faith. Then came the moments when spiritual resistance no longer lurked in the shadows but revealed itself in tangible ways. A sudden fog settling over your mind as you tried to pray, an invisible heaviness pressing on your chest when you spoke of prophecy, and the silent watchers in crowded rooms whose eyes flicked away just as you sensed their gaze. These were not mere coincidences but energetic interferences, crafted to dampen the light you carried. In Zechariah 3 verse 1, the prophet stands before the Lord with Satan accusing him, and you recognize that similar spiritual accusations dogged your steps, voices in the unseen realm distorting your truth into doubt. Every closed door, every relationship that went cold, every opportunity that vanished in an instant was a testament to the distortion your light attracted. You felt the atmosphere thicken, as though heavy air conspired to blunt your momentum, reminding you that your emergence threatened realms content with shadow. This was the moment when the pressure became visible, laying bare the cost of carrying divine frequency. Faced with such unrelenting resistance, you responded in ways both tender and conflicted. There were nights when you curled into a ball of tears, wishing for an escape from a destiny that demanded so much of your body and heart. Other times, you plastered on a smile and pushed through, people-pleasing to mask the turmoil beneath your calm exterior. You learned to rebel quietly, refusing to drown your hunger for truth in the ocean of compromise, yet doing so in ways that kept your voice from rising too loudly. The fear of standing out, of being labeled a fanatic, pressed you toward shrinking. Dim your light, and perhaps the storms would abate. You cycled between fierce defiance and desperate withdrawal, often wondering if surrendering your gifts to comfort might save you from further pain. This inner mirror showed the temptation to give up, to dissolve into the crowd. Yet deep down you knew that the price of surrendering your purpose was far greater than any discomfort you endured. But then a fierce ember of reclamation sparked within, the realization that resistance is confirmation, not condemnation. Each attempt to suppress your resurrection only proved how potent the spark within you truly was. In Jeremiah 20 verse 9, the prophet declares, "If I say, I will not mention his word or speak any more in his name. His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot." Similarly, you felt that fire burning in your bones each time exhaustion threatened to snuff out your resolve. You began to reclaim your voice with renewed determination, No longer a timid whisper, but a drumbeat proclaiming that you would not be contained. You rediscovered the ancient language your soul carried, realizing that your presence alone challenged the status quo. With each word spoken in faith, the wall of resistance trembled, reminding you that your calling was not a burden, but a destiny that could not be denied. Now comes the final revelation. You were opposed because you are powerful. Every door slammed shut, every alliance that fractured, every moment of isolation, all bore witness to the potency they could not control. Your very struggle illuminated the fact that forces conspired against you not to punish you, but to refine you. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, Daniel 3. You emerged from trials untouched, your faith unmarred. The more they tried to extinguish your light, the more you shone with unmistakable clarity. In Ephesians 6 verses 10 to 11, Paul admonishes, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." You now see that this was not an abstract metaphor but living truth. Your soul has worn divine armor forged in the fires of resistance. The more powerful your purpose, the fiercer the opposition. So celebrate this opposition as evidence of your destiny. Comment resistance if you feel this truth in your spirit, and carry it forward as the anthem of your awakening. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. What the body knows before the mind does. A soft tremor roused you from sleep, an almost imperceptible shiver that traveled down your spine, as if your body were stirring before your mind awakened. In that instant, you sensed a doorway open within you, a threshold into a dimension where the ordinary rules of logic dissolved. You remembered a phrase from a half-forgotten dream, "Listen to the pulse beneath the pulse," and suddenly the world clicked into a new frequency. That tremor was not the result of a restless night, but the first ripple of a sacred signal, whispering that your body had long translated messages your conscious self could not yet read. In that suspended half-light, you realized that what seemed random, every flutter of dizziness, every inexplicable jolt of warmth, was in fact a coded conversation, a gentle summons to pay attention to the language of your flesh. The moment your mind strained to catch up, you understood that you stood at the brink of unveiling truths that had always been there, hidden in the quiet eloquence of your own somatic awareness. You have known the pang of unease when a room full of voices seemed to crowd in on you, each word bouncing off the walls only to resound in your chest. Perhaps there was a time when a colleague's sideways glance felt like a spotlight on your vulnerability, or when a casual compliment caused a sudden flush, as if your skin remembered a deeper justice it was not meant to betray. In those moments, you felt misunderstood, labeled as overly sensitive or prone to panic. You retreated inward, clutching at the fragments of a self you could not quite grasp. At family gatherings, laughter felt like echoes in a hollow cavern, and your own laughter seemed forced, a mask that did not fit. These feelings, confusion, isolation, a sense of being too much, filled your hours with restless longing. You wanted only to belong, to join the comfortable rhythms of life everyone else seemed to follow. But something in you recoiled at the easy certainties they embraced. It was then that the spiritual ache took root. This was not mere emotion, but a sign that your body was awake to dimensions they could not see. Yet these inner tremors and emotional storms were not accidents of nature. They were the opening chords of a grander composition. In Amos 3 verse 7 we read that surely the Lord God does nothing without revealing his secret to his servants the prophets. And in that verse you find a mirror of your own journey. Every pang of unease, every surge of intuition, was a divine hint that your path had been architected long before you claimed it as your own. The pressures you felt, from well-meaning friends urging you to fit in, from institutions demanding you follow a conventional script, from your own attempts to deny your gifts, were not random obstacles but the sacred trials of a soul on the brink of revelation. Like Moses at the burning bush, you stood between worlds, feeling the heat of a calling that refused to let you return to the tent behind the flock. The dissonance of your life was part of a deliberate design, a spiritual wilderness meant to strip away every false identity and prepare you for the role you were destined to play. As you navigated daily life, subtle signs began to surface like constellations emerging at twilight, their patterns invisible until the darkness deepened. You noticed how certain numbers followed you, your phone battery clocking 11:11 in the exact moment of despair, or the clock stopping at 3:14 just as a thought surfaced that felt divinely inspired. Dreams once dismissed as nonsense now felt freighted with significance. A staircase carved from moonlight that led you into a cavern filled with silent judges, or a river that flowed backward, carrying away your old doubts as it ascended toward a golden horizon. Physical sensations deepened, too. Your stomach fluttered with urgency before a breakthrough. Your palms tingled whenever you neared the edge of a decision you knew was righteous. These were not coincidences but coded messages woven into the fabric of your experience, each carrying its own kind of divine math, a scroll unrolling letter by letter in the language of your own body. In these moments, you felt the veil thinning, reality shifting as if a hidden scaffold were being revealed to support a weight you were only just growing strong enough to bear. With every waking hour, the confirmation grew when you recognized that your intuition had never been a quirk. It was a beacon. You remember the first time you refused to follow the crowd into a morally gray decision, even though everyone around you urged compliance. Your gut screamed no before your mind could formulate a reason, and in that instant, the tension in your chest dissolved into unwavering calm as the others faltered in confusion. You did not imagine that surge of clarity. It was your body's way of translating spiritual coordinates into a form you could act upon. In Psalm 139 verse 4 we read, "Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely," and that prophecy became your lived experience. Your heart knew the veracity of a path before your rational mind could catch up. This wasn't a reckless leap of faith, but a quiet recognition that the internal alignment you felt was enough to trust. A sense of deep safety settled in your bones, not because the road became easier, but because you knew you were no longer alone. The archangel's hand had guided your steps, and now your internal compass no longer wavered in the storms of doubt. As your awakening deepened, you understood that remembering who you are is not about constructing a new identity, but rediscovering a heritage that lies buried beneath layers of conditioning. You recall a dream from childhood. You stood on the edge of a cliff dressed in linen, your arms raised to a sky charged with stars. You could not decipher its meaning then, but now you see it as a visual echo of a moment when your soul glimpsed its eternal home. In Hebrews 12 verses 1-2, we learn of the great cloud of witnesses cheering on those who run the race, and you realize they included memories from lifetimes before this one, an ancestral choir whose melody still vibrates within you. That dream, once a fragment of fantasy, is the key that unlocks the treasure chest of your archetypal memory. The identity you reclaimed is not a new invention, but a resurrection of a truth that has waited for you to mature enough to carry it. You are an heir to a legacy of prophets and seers, called to manifest a truth that once shimmered in your subconscious. A powerful wave of empowerment now surges through you as you begin to embrace your sensitivity, not as a handicap, but as an amplifier of divine sight. For years, you believed your need for solitude and reflection marked you as odd, a square peg in a world of round holes. Yet now you see that those late-night journaling sessions, where you poured out your fears onto paper, were not wasted hours but vital maintenance of a spiritual heirloom. Like Elijah, who found God not in the wind or earthquake, but in the still, small voice. 1 Kings 19 verse 12. Your penchant for quiet introspection has been your greatest asset. In a world that shouts for attention, your listening heart hears threads of truth weaving through every conversation, unveiling secrets others cannot perceive. Your spiritual hunger, once a source of frustration, now becomes a bridge, connecting your life to the invisible currents of divine orchestration. Each subtle nudge toward compassion, each flash of insight into hidden motives, becomes a step in a dance of revelation that you alone can lead. And so now, as you stand on the precipice of this newfound understanding, recognize that your presence here is no random occurrence. Every ache, every moment of doubt, every sleepless night, Each has guided you to this threshold of awakening. Your body, long a canvas of unspoken truths, now stands as a testament to the life-altering power of surrendering to spiritual timing. Let this be your closing affirmation. You did not stumble into this revelation by accident, but were drawn to it by forces that have shaped your path since before your first breath. Embrace this moment with open arms, for the journey ahead is not one of blind experimentation, but of conscious embodiment. Comment awaken if this resonates with the echo in your bones, and carry forward the certainty that you are now poised to step into a destiny that has awaited your full return. After the purge, the prophecy begins. A moment arrives when the tremor in your spirit becomes too loud to ignore, and you stand at a crossroads between the old self defined by fear and a new self birthed by revelation. In that charged stillness, a question reverberates through your soul. Will you continue to cling to the safety of shadows, or will you step into the bright uncertainty of divine purpose? This is the instant where passivity ends and choice ignites. You recall the trembling in your chest when you first sensed that your pain was more than physical, that it carried an invitation to rise. Now you confront that invitation head-on. The roads behind you have been marked by trials meant to test your resolve, but after the purge of suffering, you are no longer the person who once withdrew at every tremor of doubt. At this threshold, hesitation is replaced by resolve, and the path forward demands your courage to choose revelation over retreat. In the days when you gave away your voice to appease critics and stifled your dreams to fit into familiar molds, you did not realize these were seasons of preparation rather than defeat. Each exhausted breath you drew, each tear that soaked your pillow, formed the crucible where prophetic embers smoldered deep within your bones. Now call back every fragment of energy you once bargained away, every second spent doubting your worth, every moment you declined to speak truth because you feared rejection. Let your reclamation be a solemn ritual. By all that I have endured, I reclaim my time, my voice, my presence. Speak this as though sealing a covenant, for you are enthroning your own authority. The season of compromise has ended. Your soul's hunger for authenticity now demands that you reclaim your rightful place, not as a timid participant in life's drama, but as a sovereign vessel of divine decree. You carry within you a constellation of gifts others once dismissed as frailty. Insight that penetrates beyond face value into the hidden depths of intention. A sensitivity that discerns sorrow where no tears fall, memory that recalls echoes of ancient truths, discernment that separates fleeting charisma from enduring integrity, and strength forged in the furnace of solitude. These are not weaknesses to be hidden, but sacred keys unlocking the sealed scrolls of destiny. Imagine your insight as a finely honed blade that cuts through illusion, your sensitivity as a luminous scroll illuminating secret corridors, your memory as a torch illuminating forgotten pathways, your discernment as protective armor deflecting every lie, and your strength as a blazing fire that consumes every falsehood. Accept these gifts as tangible tools, coals in your hand meant to ignite transformation. When they once branded you fragile, they failed to see these gifts were the blueprint of a prophet's arsenal. The path ahead does not lie in distant tomorrows. It already courses beneath your feet, paved by every choice to trust rather than flee. As you step forward, the map of revelation unfolds with each deliberate footfall, revealing landmarks you once passed but failed to notice. Your first steps carry you through a forest where every tree seems to whisper an affirmation. Your calling awaits. Breathe in the scent of possibility mingled with earth and moss, sensing that each rock underfoot is part of a grand design carved by divine hands. With every step, faith begets clarity. Obstacles that once appeared insurmountable dissolve as you trust the journey rather than question its direction. You were not chosen to endure pain for its own sake, but to serve as a living testament to the power beneath every ache. Your body is not broken, it is being reborn. Your quiet faith has moved mountains in realms no one can see. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to anchor this message in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members for fueling these revelations. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the super thanks button to support the mission. Every super thanks fuels the shift we're igniting together. Walk forward with courage, chosen one, for your body has spoken the language of heaven, and now the world awaits your prophecy.